All right. We're going to do this one more time. Welcome. It's, welcome back to Black Bear News. Uh, take two on today. Sorry about that. Come on in. As you can hear, there's some hammering going on, and I was trying to do it with the door closed to see if I could do it again with the door closed, and it's not working. So, anthropomorphic facsimile boot. William Moy, John Lundqvist, how you doing? All right, come back in, guys. Sorry about that. There were a bunch of you on the other one, which I deleted post haste. Magical Thinking Barbie, hello. Gene, hello. Gene says, hope everyone is healthy. I hope you guys are all doing well. Forrest, Daniel V, what's going on? Yeah, come on in. Welcome to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. Make sure you like the video and make sure that you are still subscribed. I know I have to say this over and over and over again, but it's very important. Why do I have to say this? Because they keep kicking people off my channel. Here's how you know that YouTube is bullshit. Because on my Rockfin channel, if you go to my Rockfin channel, I get more followers every single day. And the followers never go down. They never go down. I post videos all the time on Rockfin. My followers never go down. They only go up. Which is how it should be in a normal world. So please, they kick the subscribers off the channel. So you have to make sure that you're still subscribed. You know, they're doing all kinds of funny things on the YouTube, but we already know this. So let's not flog a dead horse, as fun as that can be sometimes. Natural progressive, be authentic. Michael Arond. All right, y'all are back. Everybody's back, I think. So the title of this video. So yesterday I was talking about the fact that a lot of people feel like this whole thing, this whole situation, this whole scenario is, manufactured or somehow, some kind of plot or a plan, which I'm not discounting on any level. That idea. Others think that maybe this is totally natural, but the powers that be are using this opportunity to do all kinds of stuff. That's also totally likely. Here's something that I think y'all will find really interesting. Who sent me this? Was it Tom Green? Let's see if I can find out who sent this, because somebody linked this in the comment section. Let's see. Trying to make things move in a timely fashion. Tom Green, yes. So Tom Green linked this article titled Bridgewater makes $1.5 billion bet options bet on falling market. So Bridgewater Associates LP has bet more than $1 billion that stock markets around the world would fall by March. This is from November 22nd, 2019. This is the world's largest hedge fund. The wager assembled over a span of months and executed by a handful of Wall Street firms, including Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and Morgan Stanley would pay off for the world's biggest hedge fund if either the S&P 500 or Euro Stoxx 50 or both declines, some people said. So this was basically a put option on stocks falling by March. So what, hold on a second. Wait a minute. That's so coincidental. I mean, it's incredibly coincidental that they would say by March. This is dated in, this article was dated in November. How could this largest hedge fund, um, how could they have known? What would be the impetus for taking such a huge bet, a $1.5 billion bet, that the stock market would crash in March or by March? Do you think maybe they knew something? Could they have known something? Or was this just wild speculation? Were they just looking at indicators in the market and, making an educated guess? Sure. Uh, but $1.5 billion is a lot of money. A lot of money to bet. It's a hell of a lot of money to bet. So, I don't know. I don't know that I can conclusively put this in the bucket of, well, this was totally orchestrated, and they knew this was coming because this was totally orchestrated. I wouldn't go all the way to putting it in. Just it's a slam dunk. It's a basket. But I will put it on the board as this makes everything look incredibly fishy. On top of the fact that there was, a simulation, a world pandemic simulation done late last year. What was it called? Event 201 or something like that. By Bill Gates and a bunch of other foundations. So, there was this event simulation, and then the world's largest hedge fund took a gigantic bet on the stock market, and somehow this just happened to happen right after those two things happened. Coincidentally, those two things happened. Oh, and this just came out of the blue and, took everybody by surprise. Sure. When the coincidences start piling up, when it starts being like coincidence on coincidence on coincidence on coincidence, we're not there. We're not to the high mountain of coincidences yet, but we've got a couple of sticks in the fire, right? We've got a couple of sticks lined up, like, that looks weird. That looks weird. That really looks weird, right? The strangeness is starting to come together, and then you have basically Congress passing a quote unquote stimulus bill that is basically yet another corporate giveaway. Writing off all this money to corporations and big businesses, and not one person asking how will you pay for it, or where will we get the money? Wherever will we get the money? You have those things all lined up, and then you start thinking, well, maybe this didn't just happen out of the blue, like, maybe this just wasn't a coincidence. Oh my God. So, with more things kind of pointing the way towards some kind of, orchestration, because you can't have, after you get to a threshold of coincidences, then you have to really actually, if you're a thinking person, if you have two brain cells in your brain, you can't just wish those things away into the cornfield. You can't just be like, well, yeah, all these coincidences. No, still, nobody saw this coming. And all those coincidences lining up indicate that people might have seen this coming. And why did they see this coming? And how did they see this coming? Right? And then, on top of the fact that you've had, economic doomers for the last 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 years saying like, well, there's going to be this big event. There's going to be this huge event. A lot of them use the term black swan. There's going to be this huge black swan event, and it's going to create this situation where the entire world economy is going to grind to a halt, and they're going to have to start, they're going to implement like a world cryptocurrency, and they're going to take away cash. Of course, cash is bad because you could pass the virus with cash, right? So how perfect. What a perfect situation. Um, you can do all these draconian measures to, lock down your people. If you, deem it necessary, if things really get out of control, oh my God, we've got to do something, you know, got to do something over the top. So, you know, anyways, I'm not saying anything conclusively that I know anything conclusively about this situation, but this article is pretty wild. It's pretty wild. The hedge fund took on a huge bearish trade. So all these uh, amazingly huge Wall Street firms somehow knew something was coming by March. Somehow they knew. I don't know. I don't know. How do they know this? Just because they're amazing, they're amazing economic analytical minds all put this together. Yeah. I'm going to move on to another article titled, "Why Are So Few Germans Dying from the Coronavirus?" And so I've been pointing this out every single day when I when I look through the daily statistics of what's happening with the big bug. What I notice is that Germany has a fair amount of cases. Germany is number 5 in worldwide cases. They have 50,000 cases, which is a lot of cases considering that the U.S., China, and Italy have 80,000, over 80,000, all of them. Spain has 64,000. So Germany has a huge amount of cases in comparison. They're up there in the leaders of cases. They had 5,000 new cases yesterday, but get this, they only had 37 deaths and 300. They only have 304 total deaths. So they have very few deaths. More, their mortality rate is very low. And so, I've been wondering why it is that their mortality rate is pretty low. Actually, honestly, and maybe we can chalk this up to a lack of testing or a lack of whatever information, but the U.S. actually has a low mortality rate in comparison to the number of cases we have. I mean, we only have 5,000 more cases than China, yet China has 3,000 deaths and we have 1,000 deaths. And we only had 26 new deaths yesterday. That's really low considering the amount of cases that we have. We have a very low death rate. And so I don't know why that is. It could be many factors working together. But anyways, let's kind of go through this real quick. While countries around the globe struggle to cope with all the pandemic pandemonium, a different picture has emerged in Germany. Experts are scrambling to figure out why the country has around 34,000 confirmed infections. That was a little while ago, or 2 days ago. The 5th most in the world, but far fewer deaths than other countries. There have been 172 recorded deaths in Germany. That's just 0.5% of the total cases. Higher than for the seasonal flu, but drastically lower than Italy's soaring case death rate of almost 10%, which is huge. In fact, no other major country comes close to Germany by comparison. The United States has a 1.4% death rate, I guess. Yes, 1.4%. Still much lower than 10%. Experts have a number of theories about why Germans appear to be such an outlier, but they are cautious about holding up the country as an example during what is likely to be the early stages of the pandemic. Germany is better equipped. Well, hold on. So In contrast to countries like Italy and the UK, large parts of the US, Germany has not shut down daily life, although it has banned public gatherings of more than 2 people. Its chancellor, Angela Merkel, tested negative but has isolated herself away, awaiting further results after one of her doctors became infected. Germany and South Korea did not lock down their countries. They didn't shut down daily life, which is interesting. Germany is also better equipped, and South Korea has actually done very well in fighting this off. Germany is also better equipped than most countries when it comes to healthcare. It has 28,000 intensive care beds, considerably higher than the European average. It was not hit as early as Italy and elsewhere. It also had time to prepare. So again, the low death rate is linked to the number of tests it has been able to conduct. So high testing is very essential. It has a capacity to test about 160,000 people every week. It's been an aggressive testing process. So this is something that countries should really, really take note of. The question drives at the heart of a huge unknown in the crisis. How many people have been infected but don't know it? Getting closer to the figure will give experts and officials a better idea how deadly the outbreak really is. Spain is also, struggling with a very high death rate. Despite its large number of tests, experts still believe there's a lot of underdiagnosis in Germany. Reason experts are cautious about lauding Germany is that many tests were conducted on patients with mild or even asymptomatic cases, people who may deteriorate in coming days or weeks. Okay. So yeah, you can say that about every single scenario that we don't know what the numbers are. Are the numbers correct? Are they telling the truth? And those are all really valid questions. Certainly, there's when it first started in China, everybody, almost everybody was like, oh, they're not telling you the truth. They're not telling the true numbers. We don't know what's actually happening. They've locked everything down and they've shut everything off. So nobody really knows what's going on. All of those situations might be true. Again, all we can really do is take the actual numbers for face value, and also, if there's evidence to the contrary, look for that evidence. Somebody keeps mentioning the fact that, something like 20 million cell phone users in China, cell phone accounts disappeared in China over the last couple months, meaning that, they think that indicates how many people actually died. I don't know. I've heard that idea kind of thrown around a couple times with different numbers, 2 million cell phone users or 20 million cell phone users. Who knows? I don't know. There's no way to get conclusive evidence around that. And that, where are they getting this information, A, for one, and, what does that information, does that information obviously mean that all those people died? Okay, I don't know. I have no idea. There's also a lot of talk about different ideas around the virus, like the herd immunity idea. Kim Iverson just did a video on that, which, I don't know. I don't know how to take it. There's been... apparently the Dutch are going with a herd immunity idea. Apparently the UK started to go with a herd immunity idea, but now they're about facing. They're doing something different. There's the idea that if everybody locks themselves down or stays at home, until there's, uh, until things kind of die down or the curve is flattened, that as soon as everybody comes out, they'll get infected because nobody is immune. Then there's also the idea that there actually is no immunity to this. When this first started, I heard lots of people saying there is no immunity to this, so you can actually contract it multiple times, and that it's worse. The more you contract it, the worse it is. The worse it is. I think I said worst. Sorry. So, I mean, there's a lot of differing information around this. And it's good to kind of just take it all in and see, to get a good idea of like where we're at. The other idea too is that if there is no immunity, or if we don't take a herd immunity approach to this, that we'll have to wait till a virus is made, and that could be anywhere between whatever. It could be 6 months or 18 months, or I don't know how long it's going to take to come up with a vaccine. Nobody really knows. So we're just kind of like flying completely blind right now, and there's not necessarily a lot of information, other than there seems to be a lot of information about how to treat it. Not a lot of information, but more information. Sorry. Let me not misspeak. There seems to be more information coming out about certain drugs that will treat it. What is it? Chloroquine? I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm trying to find something. What am I trying to find, guys? You tell me, because I don't know anymore. I don't know anymore. Here we go. I'm looking for my mail. So here, yeah. Oh, I think I already opened this. Ha ha ha. So yeah, here's this is something from a website called U.S. Liberty Wire. So hey, take this for what it is, because U.S. Liberty Wire is most likely kind of a right-wing outlet, but New York doctor successfully treats patients with drug cocktails, 0 deaths, 0 hospitalizations, 0 intubations. I'm not necessarily speaking for the validity of this information. I'm just passing on something that somebody passed on to me. So that's all I'm doing. But this seems to echo what we've been hearing from a lot of different places, which is hydrochloroquine, zinc, and what's the other one? Azithromycin or something like that. Azithromycin. So hydrochloroquine, azithromycin, and zinc. The hydrochloroquine, I guess, helps the body absorb the zinc. There's conflicting information though in this. He said, they're saying that 65% of the results have been positive, but then they say 0 deaths and 0 hospitalizations. So wait, what happened to the other 35% if they're not positive? So I don't know about that. So whatever. Keith Hayes, how you doing? Keith Hayes says herd immunity is a plutocratic plot. You die, then they emerge from their holes after they've been able to afford premium social distancing. Yeah, I mean, I don't trust the herd immunity thing. It looks like the UK started to go with the herd immunity idea, and then they said, whoops, no, we're not going to do that. So they about-faced. So there's a couple people on my Facebook timeline who have contracted the bug, and they convalesced at home. They did not go to the hospital, but it sounds like it's really, really rough. So this is not like, it's not like getting a cold or getting a flu and gaining immunity. It's like you're going to get the flu and it might get so bad that you end up in the hospital. Like the likelihood that you end up in the hospital is fairly high, much higher than the flu. And it sounds like it's a really rough thing to weather on your own. From what I'm reading from people who have actually gone through it, you know, it doesn't sound like fun. So if you're asking people to kind of just go out and just go get the disease, you're asking a lot of people to get very, very sick, which I don't think a lot of people, are going to really want to do that. And then, of course, you don't want the elderly to get sick. You don't want to just pass this on to anybody. You don't want people who are vulnerable to, the worst of this to get sick. So, again, we'll just put the herd immunity idea in another little basket and we'll leave it there. This, my friends, is very concerning. I've seen this from a few places. Citing the bug, excuse me, the EPA has stopped enforcing environmental laws. How handy. I told you. Who cares about climate change? Who cares about the environment? We've got an emergency to deal with. Humans are going through something right now. So, sorry, biosphere. Sorry, environment. I mean, the fact is that we're actually doing much more for the environment than we ever would with business as usual. So the environment is mostly smiling and kicking her feet. But, this out of Washington, the Environmental Protection Agency on Thursday abruptly waived enforcement on a range of legally mandated public health and environmental protections. Why would you do this? Why would you do that? That just doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? So people don't need to be protected from poisons, or they don't need to be protected from environmental poisoning because pandemic. Come on, man. But again, this is the Trump administration, so whatever. Nothing makes sense. It's a fun house of kookiness. You know what I mean? You just never know what room you're going to end up in. You might get lucky and end up in a good room, but mostly it's just a really scary place. The oil and gas industry were among the industries that had sought an advanced relaxation of environmental and public health enforcement during the outbreak, citing potential staffing problems. Well, there you go. The EPA's decision was sweeping, foregoing fines and other civil penalties for companies that failed to monitor, report, or meet some other requirements for releasing hazardous pollutants. Oh my God. So because of this pandemic, you can be, you don't know if you're going to be poisoned in the next few months. You don't know whether you're going to be poisoned by a floating, cloud of gases released from some refinery. That's what I was trying to say. You don't know if you're going to drink water that's been contaminated by a spill of toxic chemicals. You don't know. So you're on your own, guys. Good luck. The move was the latest and one of the broadest regulation easing moves by the EPA, which is seeking to roll back dozens of regulations. As part of President Donald Trump's purge of rules that the administration sees as unfriendly to business. So it's all about being friendly to business. Just remember. Former Obama-era EPA chief Gina McCarthy, now president of the Natural Resources Defense Council, called the announcement an open license to pollute. The administration was taking advantage of an unprecedented public health crisis to do favors for polluters that threaten public health, McCarthy said. Um, in a statement, EPA Administrator Andrew Wheeler said the open-ended waiver was temporary and retroactive to March 13th. Retroactive. We're not going to worry about the things you were doing before this happened either. So, you know. The EPA is committed to protecting human health and the environment, but recognizes challenges resulting from efforts to protect workers and the public from COVID. Blah, 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 blah. Scoobity bop boo. Yeah, so that's happening. Just letting you guys know. They're on the case, meaning not at all. Let's keep going. I was trying to read something about. That's funny because I had a story open. Did this story disappear? Here we go. Nope. Nope. This is from today. Joe Biden faces sexual assault allegations from a former staffer. Have you guys seen? This is all over the YouTubes. It hasn't necessarily been all over the mainstream media. Why? Because, well, we got to protect Joe Biden. You know, Joe Biden's fine, and if you say anything bad about Joe Biden, you're just an angry Bernie bro. You know, Joe Biden is a great guy. He's not a great guy. Joe Biden is a shithead of a human being. He locked people up, locked black and brown people up by the thousands and millions. He, lobbied against busing and integration in schools. He lobbied against equal rights for women at one time. He lobbied against Roe versus Wade. He's an asshole. He lobbied for the Iraq War. He, lobbied for the bankruptcy bill, which made it impossible for people to get out of school loan debt, and other debt. He lobbied for cutting Social Security. He again, over and over and over again. So taken singularly, this allegation is it's an allegation. It's not a it's not it doesn't prove guilt. It's an allegation by a woman who doesn't have any corroboration, except for the fact that he has had 7 other claims of assault against him. So it's one thing if something is a singular case, you might go, well, you might question it a little bit harder, or you might go, oh, is the timing of this weird, or why is she coming out now? But apparently she actually tried to come out a year ago. And she went to an organization called Time's Up, which is the organization. The entire function of the organization is to help women in their assault claims against powerful men. She went to this organization and they said, we can't help you because this might affect our tax exempt status. And Joe Biden apparently Joe Biden was too powerful. So they were like, nah, we can't do it. And if anybody has ever seen those video compilations of Joe kind of creepily touching little girls in the Oval Office, or not in the Oval Office, in the what building is it where they swear people in? I don't know if it's the Senate building or the Capitol, the Capitol building, but if you've ever seen a compilation of how he's kind of creepily touched people over the years, it's creepy. It's creepy. It's creepy as shit. And so when you hear women, multiple women come out and say Joe Biden, like creepily touched me, and then you see actual video evidence of him doing this to people, then it's really not that much of a stretch to go, yeah, I believe he probably did this shit. Right? So, you have evidence upon evidence. And even if you didn't have any other corroboration, I would say, listen to what this woman has to say and take it seriously for sure. Absolutely. Hear her story. It's just difficult because if you were in a court of law and you were trying to prove this assault case, you probably wouldn't get very far because there's no, other than maybe other people saying like, she told me this story. That's about all you have. But, it's concerning. It's very concerning, very alarming, and she's actually been trying to get the story out for quite a while, long before the primaries were happening, long before Joe Biden was the assumed nominee, which he should not be the assumed nominee on any level. The primaries are not over. So yeah, it's pretty disturbing. Like when you hear all the stories together, it's pretty disturbing. It's a pretty disturbing picture. So yeah, just going through the pandemic numbers again. USA is taking the lead. We're number one. Spain is continuing to really grapple with this. They had 6,000 new cases. They have, they're almost at 70,000. So Spain is really reeling. And they have a huge, case per population number ratio. And it looks like they have a pretty large, their death rate is fairly high, almost at Italy's death rate, which is very high. The mortality rate. So in that last article I read, Italy is at like 10% mortality rate, which is huge. The mortality rate for closed cases is still at 16%. It was at one time about 13%. So that's a number to be, that's a number to watch. And that's something Chris Martinson actually brings up in his videos, and other people bring this up too, is that, the mortality rate of closed cases is, probably the number we're more interested in, because if the mortality rate is, I think they figure out the mortality rate to all active in all active cases, what's the death rate of all active cases, but you don't know what the death rate is of the actual active cases until they're closed. You either get better or you don't. So anyways, just gonna go through and read. Osama, what's up? Thank you, man. I'm glad you like the songs. Yes, I'm still working on this climate change record to be released on Earth Day, which is coming up very, very soon. I'm in the final stretch. If you want to contribute to the making of the record, you can do that. The link is in the description box. If you do contribute to the making of the record, you get actually the songs as before the entire record is put out. Although so you can actually hear all the songs that are finished now if you contribute to the making of the record. Is what I'm saying. You would get like an immediate sneak peek at all the music, and I've got about 3 more songs that I'm working on for the rest of the record. But and you also get some other like perks as well, goodies or whatever. So yeah, the link is in the description box. So check that out if you are interested. Red says herd immunity, like the one we have for smallpox. Going South says it's still going to be like 12 to 18 months till we get a vaccine. It's generally the number that I hear. Let's see. Gene says 8 women have accused Biden of sexual misconduct. Yes. Yeah, there's just a general, and it's just generally known that he's like a touchy kind of dude, and not in a not necessarily in a in a friendly way or a way that people appreciate. Like a lot of people don't appreciate. A lot of women don't appreciate that touchiness. I mean, I'm a touchy person, but with people that I know, like people that I'm close to. That's totally different from people who are strangers or people you don't have conversations with, or people that work with you or work for you. Totally different, and not at all warranted. Forest Dweller says, I'm wearing full wetsuit, scuba gear, and flippers for Corona. I wobble through the supermarket like a giant penguin. Go back home, shower off, job done. Way to play it safe, Forrest. I love it. Prudhomme says there is already a treatment that is 100% effective. Anti-malarial drug, chloroquine. This is what I have been hearing, yes. And what I will link this article that I read. I mean, this is, I've heard this from many, many different sources. Not just this place, but it seems that there is, the general idea is that these drugs, azithromycin, and hydrochloroquine, and chloroquine, treat the bug very well. The question is how widely it's being implemented. Is it being implemented in Italy and Spain? I don't know. What's going on with Italy and Spain? Why are they having such a high mortality rate? Is it a lack of, I mean, Italy supposedly has a good health service, but is it a lack of drugs, beds? What is it? I don't know. Anthropomorphic facsimile, really? Yeah, so interesting. So anthropomorphic facsimile says, yes, there is a generation at the upper age range who felt free to show affection we wouldn't tolerate today. I knew an old lawyer who would fondle my ass and pretty much any girls. Yeah, but yeah. but that's, I mean, yeah, I guess it's a generational thing, and that's kind of, I once showed the video collage or whatever you want to call it, of Joe Biden like kind of being very touchy with little girls to someone, and they were like, "Oh, he's just being a friend. He's just being an old man being friendly." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, you know." But there's kind of a line. It's like if you're that touchy feely, there's this line where that could easily turn into other things, which it seems like that's what these women are saying when their accounts of him just kind of like turning a touchy-feely moment into something super creepy. It's weird. Osama says a lot of veterinary medicines can be used safely by humans. Chloroquine is not one of them. Do go on. I don't know. So I don't know. I'm hearing this a lot though. I'm hearing hydrochloroquine. I don't know. That obviously must be different from chloroquine. Proudhon says chloroquine has been in use for 75 years and is safe. Gene asks, do we have scientific evidence that these drugs work, or is it anecdotal? Well, I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know. I'm hearing. I've heard from many different sources, and most of them seem fairly credible. I'm hearing from a lot of doctors that these are the things they're doing, but I don't. I haven't seen anything conclusive like this is the thing that we're going to do. I think that maybe all of these tests are somewhat in the beginning, in the trial stages. So I don't know. Torstein says touching is okay. Come on, pre-boomers did that. Christian Sorensen, handsy Uncle Joe, indeed. Yeah, it's just there's that kind of stuff has been not okay for a pretty, that wasn't just like not okay in 2010. Like it's been pretty not okay for a while. This the woman that came forward, apparently this happened in the 90s, like in the mid 90s. So it was a while ago. 26 years ago. So, but yeah, Osama, I agree with you. It's one thing if you're at 11, but not in a professional setting, right? It's totally, yeah, like, it's like, situationally, stuff like that is fine, right? With like people that or you feel free or comfortable with. But people that, you don't know at all or barely know or work with, that's probably not, that is not appropriate. Anthropomorphic says he was told a bunch, but that had been his way for decades. You can say he was acting entitled, but as far as I'm concerned, it's no big deal. Well, I've heard the same thing from other people, from women, from other women, like, oh, he's just being friendly and nice. I don't know. All of that aside, he's not a good person to have as the nominee for president. That stuff aside, but we'll see what happens with that. It's just very interesting. It's fairly big news story, but it's not necessarily being carried by the mainstream news. Not yet. That was on Yahoo News that I read from. Fairly mainstream. Christian Sorensen should never be okay. Yeah. I mean, it's a, there's, I don't know, there's just a difference between a friendly, like, hey, hand on the back or hand on the shoulder or what. I don't know. There's just then a grope or a rub or a I don't know. It can just be generally like it's not a good idea if you're not familiar with somebody. That's that's how I play it. Anthropomorphic facsimile. When I was in law school, as sex harassment gained attention, I had two professors express confusion, dismay about what it was. So yeah. Well, and then there's a whole Clarence Thomas thing, which Biden was involved with, right? He grilled Anita Hill, and he put her through some hell, and he wasn't on her side, that's for sure. Poppy Davis, if he touched my daughter like that, I'd be angry. Yep. Have you ever seen the video of Sessions? When Jeff Sessions is being sworn in, and he tries, Biden starts to put his hand out to like touch his granddaughter, and he like swats it away. He was like, it's actually like one of the moments like Jeff Sessions, you're like, oh, good job. Because he knew he had heard about Biden, and he saw Biden do this, like put his hand out, and he was like, get your ass out of here. Touch my granddaughter. Forest dweller, many sexual accusations are fake, though. Some are and some aren't. To me, listen, the listen to women or believe women or the Me Too movement, like I think the whole idea is to listen, to not immediately reject or believe, right? So immediately rejecting a story is saying you believe that they're a liar right off the bat without listening to the story or giving it weight. I think that's wrong. I think that's totally wrong, and I think that's what women have a problem with. That's how it's been treated through the ages. You're making that up. That's not cool. That's not fair. But the converse of that, or the inverse of that, which is I immediately believe the woman every time, and I never believe the man. That's also not cool. That's actually also wrong. You actually have to listen to the story. Is this real? Is this not? You have to listen to both sides. You have to like take in all the evidence. Like that's how you find the truth. So the extreme on both sides is actually harmful to people. And it happens. Yeah, fake stories happen, but real stories happen, and you need to find out, they need to be taken seriously. Because women are raped every single day, and they're not heard. They're not taken seriously. So that's bullshit. You have to listen. You have to believe the story, or believe that this is a possibility, and look into it and find out whether the evidence supports the truth. Being on the accuser side or being on the accused side. Anyways, Audrey Cermak, it's not just the touching; it's the power dynamic. Indeed, yes. For sure. For sure. Proudhon says Scottish politician Alex Salmon was acquitted this week of 12 counts of sexual assault and rape. 9 women on the jury. Interesting. Brian Smith, men are raped too. Yep. Well, men are also abused too in relationships. So that's totally happens. More often than people think. But, yeah, I mean, I think though that, yeah, you can go, especially in a political situation, that this kind of stuff is definitely used as it's definitely weaponized for sure, for sure. It's totally weaponized. So I mean, there's a lot of people that would be like that would probably be right in going, hey, why is this? Oh, this is an interesting time for this to come out. Sure, um, because it happens all the time. Every time somebody is running for office or about to be approved for judicial appointment, or anytime anything like that happens, all of a sudden people start coming out. Oh, he did this thing to me and whatever. It happens a lot. But the point is to figure out whether that is true or not. Anyways. Gene says here in Costa Rica it is illegal to catcall a woman in public. Wow, I didn't know that. Like when she was walking down the street. Also in the UK, I believe, too. It's a new law in the UK, right? Yeah, I don't know. Do you think that's a good law, Gene, or do you think that's an overstep, or do you think that is a good thing for women? I mean, I think catcalling is goofy, but sometimes it can be done in good humor, right? Like it's a weird line, right? There's times when it definitely can be an assault, right, on a woman, right? It can be really like demeaning and shitty. And then there's other times when it could be like, hey, I think you're pretty. Ha ha ha, whatever. But I guess it would be up to how women feel about it, right? Addict asks, did you read about the Oxford study that CV should have infected 60% of the UK by now? Says it's been around for much longer and we are at the peak right now. Okay. I didn't read that. And I don't know, maybe it's true. How do you know? Because it's, fast spreading and people are asymptomatic. Many people are asymptomatic that have it, so it would be very difficult to know. Rosa Remen, I've been calling my cat for years. Gene, yes, it is working. We have a problem with femicide and treatment of women, so it is one method of teaching respect. Point taken, yes. And, and other countries really have India is like, for whatever reason, there's a huge rape problem in India, right? Like it's like out of control. For whatever reason culturally that is happening, it's really fucking frightening to consider how often women are raped in India. And I wonder if some they're trying to get a hold of it, but I don't know how successful they're being. So Audrey Cermak, I used to live in Yemen and was veiled, but still got catcalled. Nothing to do with looks. Huh. Interesting. Keith Hayes with social distancing. Groping has to be way down. You'd think. Maybe. TCR Galaxy, humanity is out of control. Well, yes. And then there's that. Forced dweller, domestic violence is way up with forced stay-at-home policy. We've been hearing about that. Osama, what do you think of the Al Franken issue? Did the punishment fit the crime? I'm not really too familiar with what happened, but I think it was like Was it relatively minor what he did? I don't know what he did. I know that he resigned from office, and people thought that he probably didn't need to do that, but I don't know. But I actually don't know exactly what happened with the Al Franken thing, so let me not just say something I have no knowledge of. Gene says, of course, some of you guys would respond this way. I'm not surprised. I don't think for a minute you know how it feels to be publicly yelled out sexually. I would imagine that it would feel like shit, and that it would be scary on some levels, right? Like if you were, I've actually seen, a catcall situation be really very demeaning and very like incredibly intrusive, and it's super it's a big power trip, right? Hey, I'm gonna get you to respond to me. Hey, blah blah blah. Like it's so it's again, I would ask, how do women feel about it, and then you'll know. It's not necessarily up for men to interpret how women should feel about this, but you know. Red says, in a lot of the world, women and children are still considered possessions like livestock. Yes, indeed, definitely. In other cultures, like women are totally possessions. Anyways, well, this has been an interesting discussion, guys. I've reached the end of my time. Thank you guys for joining on, and I appreciate you. I will be back tomorrow at the same bat time. Forest Dweller, I have been falsely accused plenty of times. It sucks. Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on. So I actually have to go, guys. This is an interesting discussion. Maybe one we could pick up another time. But thank you guys for being here. I appreciate y'all. Be well today. Take care of yourselves. And I will see you on the flip.